there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com with match number 1 with the Summoner, or the Tooth and Nail Eldrazi deck. I'm looking at these two Scion Summoners and getting ahead of myself here. This is a keepable hand. I don't know how well it will work. We don't have like a first turn accelerant. We do have the inevitable Boseiju with Tooth and Nail and Distant Melody to fill us back up. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it. The problem with Modern right now, I think we're going to be decent versus like Infect and Suicide Zoo and even Burn to a point. But like any sort of combo deck, I don't know if we're going to be fast enough. So I do like seeing Zoo because we can clog the board up pretty well here. So I'm just going to start off with a Brood Monitor. Unfortunately, again, we don't have that one drop. What I would like to see is an Eldrazi, either Nest Invader or Eldrazi Temple, or possibly, Rancor is hard for us. Rancor and Goblin Guide swinging for 6. And Nest Invader is coming up. So that's better than nothing. Thragtusk will be good out of the board versus this deck. So I think we're going to just cast a Nest Invader. Now we can block the Goblin Guide and just take 4 from the Curd Ape. And a Cryptolith Rite's coming up. Do I just try to race? Nah, I think we go on the Goblin. And he's got a Loam Lion, which is, again, going to be quite annoying. And here we will just... I hate using Boseiju. So what is Cryptolith Rite? Because it comes to play tap, too. So I think the Cryptolith Rite is our only option, actually. Or we can sacrifice the spawn. Might as well, to put out a Scion Summoner. But we would have to hit a land again next turn for like a big Cryptolith Rite. He's going to keep attacking in. And I don't think at this point I can do too much here. Yeah, he's going to Helix off 1. I just have to take the damage, I think. Go down to a 4. And the Hierarch, we're just going to be too slow for this one. So I think the Thragtusk come in. Not quite certain about the Thought-Knot Seers. Or the Oozes might need to come in too. But what we need to do is just hit a Thragtusk. I actually do like the Thought-Knot Seers coming in this matchup as well. And I don't think we need to be drawing much cards. We'll keep some Shamanic Revelations in here, just because that can actually gain us some life off the Thought-Knot Seers and whatnot. But I think Brood Monitors can all come out. We need to be quick. And even Tooth and Nail. I don't think we need the Tooth and Nail combo in here. I think Craterhoof Behemoth will just get the job done. So we can bring in like Scavenging Ooze. Yeah, not a lot that comes in here. Maybe we'll just keep in one Tooth and Nail and a little bit of the combo with the Emrakul. But see, Craterhoof Behemoth plus Eyeless Watcher, though, is pretty much lethal as well. That puts in 4 guys, 5. They all get +5/+5. Yeah, I'm wondering how much this deck actually needs Emrakul. So we'll just bring in a Brood Monitor. I think that's just a little more powerful with the Tooth and Nail. And submit this. So yes, we'd like to play first. This is going to be, I think, barely keepable. I don't like it. But it's pretty good at clogging up the board. If he kills my Birds of Paradise, though, I'm not sure how well we will fare. Because we will have to hit another land. So our opponent is deciding whether to go down to 6. So hopefully that means he doesn't have the best draw ever. Now, typically Zoo doesn't like to first turn bolt. He'd rather establish a threat. But if he does bolt my bird, that just could be game. Okay, so it's an experiment 1. So we do at least, hopefully, yeah, we draw a land here. Awesome. And at this point, it can just come into play tapped. And we'll put out a Nest Invader. And the next turn we can Cryptolith Rite and kind of go crazy with the Nest Invaders. But this is where we do need it. This is why we want the card draw. You can see how fast this deck can just explode. Because next turn, if we draw in, we'll go Eyeless Watcher. If not, we can definitely get a Nest Invader. And a Cryptolith Rite. So he's going to Goblin Guide. And swing in, we will. Yeah, we will trade with the Experiment 1. It gives us some value off the Nykthos. So down to a 16. But he kept a very loose hand. So did we. But we've drawn out of it. And then this turn we will be able to hopefully draw into a Thragtusk would be lovely. Yavimaya Coast gets us closer. And now we can, Nest Invader here. So maybe the deck does want a lot more of the Craterhoof Behemoths. Other than we'd have to tap out for a Craterhoof Behemoth, so maybe that's not the best use of our cards, our creatures. Again, it's probably looking like we need somehow to put tokens on the Nissa. Nissa actually looks pretty good. The one out of he's going to come in again with the Goblin Guides. So it gets us a Boseiju, and the other revealed card was just a Hierarch. So I have to trade again with a guide. And I go down to 14. But we'll be able to cast a Hierarch and another Nest Invader. And then be able to tap for an Eyeless Watcher. Which we do have good devotion from the Nykthos. So a Tooth and Nail or a Craterhoof Behemoth would win. There's a Wild Nacatl. And a Rancor on the Goblin. We'll block it with the Nest Invader. And what do we have? We have a Thought-Knot Seer coming up next, which is going to be really good. So we will just block on the guide, take another 2, lose a Nest Invader. Gets the Rancor back. And we'll Thought-Knot Seer here. Probably end up getting the Rancor, depending on what else is in hand. Reckless Bushwhacker, Loam. Yeah, I think it's just the Rancor. It's the one that's going to give me the most difficult problem. And Boseiju can actually come and play tap. We're out of cards though now. A lot of gas still in our opponent's hand, but not too many things I'm that terribly worried about. Yeah, the Reckless Bushwhacker is actually kind of a waste here, in my opinion. They're coming in, none of them have trample, so Thought-Knot Seer eats the Loam. The Scion eats this. The other Scion eats here. And we'll take the 4. Our opponent just has a Reckless Bushwhacker now in hand. So we still have plenty of mana. Or plenty of mana to even cast a Craterhoof. Well, we did not draw. I think what we attack in here is just with the Thought-Knot Seer. This is why you keep the card draw in, I think. So we can fill back up that. And a Distant Melody would have drawn us 5 here. And the Shamanic Revelation would have drawn even more. All right, so pass the turn back to our opponent. There's the Reckless Bushwhacker. And yeah, the Bloodstained Mire is not going to do much of anything. We'll just throw a Spawn in front. Another Eyeless Watcher. Attacking the Thought-Knot Seer. Almost tempting to put in a little elf that whenever a creature enters the battlefield gain a life versus these hyper aggressive decks. The Soul Sister Elf. But I think it's Gavony Township that is probably the card that needs to go in this deck. So here should come the concession. We know that it's just a Reckless Bushwhacker. Even like something that gives trample wouldn't do it. And again, I'm not sure any of these absolutely need to come in. I could go for Fecundity, because we will end up. Maybe we'll try a Fecundity. Instead of what, though? A couple of Eyeless Watchers? I mean, the Fecundity actually helps our opponent as well. But if we're just going for the chump block route, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I think I'd just rather put in like a Evolutionary Leap here. And we'll keep in an Eyeless Watcher. We'll submit this. And maybe even leave the Stampede is just better than Distant Melody. It's a mana. The problem is we do run more non-creature spells, I think, than like elves. Not too many, though. We have a very heavy creature count. I think this is fine. This gives us a lot of gas with the Evolutionary Leap. And there's Experiment 1. So we'll lead off with a Noble Hierarch. But the Eyeless Watcher is going to be kind of weak in this one. You want the earlier Scion Summons and Nest Invaders. And Zoo can just steamroll us. Zoo has one of the strongest starts in all of Magic. It's recently lost favor just because Suicide Zoo and Infect are just quicker. And unfortunately, Modern is pretty much devolved to Modern's pretty much devolved to like very, very fast combo decks and very fast aggro decks. Besides, the only control decks that really exist at the moment are Jund and I would say Nahiri Jeskai with a little bit of Mono Blue Tron and RG Tron in the mix. but tons and tons of these hyper-aggressive decks. So I think, yeah, that was a very good start. I don't know if I can actually, if I'm going to be fast enough, especially if I have just Breeding Pool here. I don't think we need Evolutionary Leap, so it's just going to come and play tapped. And we'll go Birds of Paradise. That way we can get a Thragtusk out next turn. I do believe I'll attack in with the Hierarch. Worst case scenario is like a Bushwhacker here and a Nykthos. But it's just 5, and we'll get back that life next turn with the Thragtusk. So we'll just go Coast. And go for Thragtusk. Very difficult card for our opponent to deal with. Go back up to a 16. And the next turn we can actually just hardcast an Eyeless Watcher and keep back other blockers as well. So we'll trade with the Nykthos. Get a 3/3. See if there's more. All right, there's a Nest Invader. So I still think it's Eyeless Watcher. We'll do Eyeless Watcher and Nest Invader. And that way now we have a blocker for the Experiment 1. We also have a blocker for the Goblin Guide. And some chump blockers. So not going to attack him with anything. Just keep it back. Opponent only has 3 cards to work with. And we're at a healthy 13. And yeah, 2 cards to work with. And now we have the Evolutionary Leap that's going to accelerate us into finding what we need. And the Cryptolith Rite. So, I mean, we can just basically find another Thragtusk. I think we sack a Spawn here. I want to find like a Thragtusk. Eyeless Watcher's fine too. And we'll have 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so we'll kill another. A Scion here. We find an Ooze. Okay, Ooze is going to be great. Because now we can just put out the Ooze and keep back some mana. Guess I should have played the Boseiju. Boseiju's kind of so dead in this matchup. So this Ooze has 2 targets right now that I can actually exile. And another land for... So opponent did get extremely mana flooded. Reckless Bushwhacker's terrible in hand. The other Bushwhacker, Goblin Bushwhacker, would be okay, but it still wouldn't push through enough damage. There's absolutely nothing that our opponent can do here before the Scavenging Ooze just goes crazy. I mean, we did lose our Evolutionary Leap, so it's going to be tough to fill back up our hand. But it's definitely possible. See, I think I'm liking the Gavony Township route with this, with Eldrazi Displacer. I think that's the route to go. It has just tons of synergy with everything here. You could even put in a combo with Brood Monitor. Not quite sure that's the exact route. So the Thought-Knot Seer is coming up. We're going to block here, here, and here. Give them all +1/+1 and 3 damage, but we will exile them the Coddle. And exile our Thragtusk. So now our Scavenging Ooze survives. And 2 of his guys die, which actually gives us more ammo for the Scavenging Ooze. Thought-Knot Seer is kind of awkward at the moment. I think I'd just rather Eyeless Watcher. And swing it with the Scavenging Ooze. There's literally nothing our opponent can draw. And this puts it at with the Scavenging Ooze, it's a 2-turn with the Exalted. So after this, I think we're going to change up the deck list slightly. I'm going to try the Gavony Townships and some Brushlands, most likely. And there's our concession. So we'll do that. Let's just switch it up right now. I think what we need is either Brushlands, if I even have any. I think that's what it's called. Let's go on the right. Brushland here. Probably 4 of them. I still don't think we quite need fetch lands. Breeding pools can kind of go down now. I don't actually think we need too many breeding pools. So Lead the Stampede with 25 creatures just might be a little more powerful, especially... Oh, man. So is it... Shamanic Revelation draws for each one. Yeah, I'm thinking these are actually going to be more powerful than Lead the Stampede, because we actually do need to draw into non-creature spells. So Breeding Pool can go down to like a 1-of, and then Temple Garden can come to a 1-of as well, and then we can actually put in a Plains, which we can get with the Wooded or Windswept Heath. So we're going to put in Windswept and just 1 of basic Plains and a couple Windsweps, I think is the right way to go. Take out some just basic forests. And maybe the Nykthos Shrine of Nyx doesn't need to be in here. I'm gonna actually push the Boseiju over to the sideboard. Possibly just get rid of a Fecundity. Not quite sure that's the right route to go. It's between, but Evolutionary Leap just seems a little more powerful than Fecundity. Fecundity, I think we have enough draw, just might be a little bit overkill. But this allows us to put in Windswept. And I think we can actually cut down quite a bit. Maybe 2 Windswept is fine. Like the Brushlands, I hate to go all out on non-basics because then we're so vulnerable to Blood Moon. And beforehand, we weren't as vulnerable, but this adds for white. Oh, we still need the Gavony Townships in here. So Brushlands, Yavimaya Coasts. Yeah, possibly Windswept, Eldrazi Temple. And then we have to make room still for the Displacer. Possibly we don't even need to go blue in here for the Distant Melody. The other option would be, I guess, just cut a Shamanic Revelation. Gives us 2 of them. Possibly we can even cut another one. Or just cut a Brood Monitor, or even one of these earlier. We have to put in the Eldrazi Displacers. And then Gavony Township. So I'm hoping we have enough room. So it's going to be, I think, just Yavimaya Coast down in count. And we will cut the Distant Melodies completely and then just put in Shamanic Revelation. I think that we're fine with 3 Shamanic Revelations. And then I think, 3 Eldrazi Displacers. That's probably the right amount. And then we can throw back in the Gavony Townships. And we don't need the breeding pool now. The Yavimaya Coast is just in here for tapping for a basic. So that could go another Windswept, or just another, I think just another Forest or Temple Garden is the right line of play. Gavony Township, and I think all 3 Gavony Townships. I think Yavimaya Coast actually can just be completely cut. And then this is just the blue is gone completely. We don't have any use for blue. And then this is going to be all the Gavony Townships. And then we can go back up in Temple Gardens. And we still need to cut 1 card for, I think that 21 lands is the right amount. So it's something like Emrakul honestly doesn't need to be in here because Brood Monitor and Craterhoof Behemoth. But I think just having the one of Emrakul is smart. So I'm just going to cut a Shamanic Revelation. The Eldrazi Displacer and the Evolutionary Leap can draw us cards. Shamanic Revelation is just a 2-up because we only want to see 1 per game. Yeah, that does seem, and Tooth and Nail is what we're obviously trying to get to. I think that's fine. The other route we could go is like Duskwatch Recruiter to just try to find more. But I'm thinking this is a good little list. So we'll try this list out, see how well it works. Of course, I could just run a Boseiju in main board instead of like another Forest or something like that. But I think this will work out well for us. Anyway, we'll go on to match number 2. This has been Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.